All right, we have a bit of good news, overdue good news, which is that the New York Times, along with a number of other European news outlets, is calling on the Biden administration to drop their prosecution of Julian Assange, specifically with regards to the espionage charges against him for the act of journalism, of publishing. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. This is a New York Times tweet. They say the New York Times and 4 European news outlets called on the U.S. government to drop its charges against Julian Assange for obtaining and publishing classified diplomatic and military secrets. They warned his indictment, quote, sets a dangerous precedent. The open letter, which was signed by The Times, The Guardian, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, and El País, said the prosecution of Mr. Assange under the Espionage Act threatens to undermine the First Amendment and the freedom of the press. Here's a direct quote. They say, obtaining and disclosing sensitive information when necessary in the public interest is a core part of the daily work of journalists. Something we've been saying here for a long time. If that work is criminalized, our public discourse and our democracies are made significantly weaker. Now, Julian Assange, as you guys probably know, has been fighting extradition from the UK. Looks very much now like he is going to be extradited to the US to face charges here that include both these Espionage Act charges and also the original charge. They kept it relatively narrow, alleging that he helped in the hacking of these documents, helped Chelsea Manning in the hacking of these documents, which also they, Assange denies. And also, one thing that Glenn always points out, the level of assistance that was given here is common in terms of what the jobs that journalists also perform. The New York Times does not go so far as to call on the Justice Department under the Biden administration to drop those charges as well. They're focused on the Espionage Act piece. And they close by saying there is no precedent in the United States for prosecuting a publisher of information as opposed to a spy or government official who leaks secrets under the Espionage Act. The Trump administration's decision to bring such charges against Mr. Assange raised novel and profound questions about the meaning of the First Amendment.
Right. The real question is Biden going to continue or not? So far, him and Merrick Garland, the DOJ, have continued that extradition. And John Kirby, spokesman for the National Security Council, was asked about it yesterday. Let's take a listen.
What is your assessment, or what is the National Security Council's assessment of the harm that was done by the WikiLeaks leak in 2012? And that would inform any decision by the Justice Department.
I think, if you go back and look at how the administration responded in 2012, and of course, President Biden was then vice president at the time, we would maintain that what we said at the time, what was said at the time, that those leaks, those revelations in the public sphere were damaging to U.S. national security.
You can see they're still sticking to the line. No indication yet that they're going to listen. You always have to square it with the Biden administration made a whole big show about being pro First Amendment. They're like, we're going to stop doing subpoenas on the press, and we're going to stop some of the worst things that the Trump administration did in some of its persecution of the media on a legal level that actually started with the Obama administration. But guess what? If you continue this, you are effectively criminalizing publishing information. We do this. Any of us are in a position where we could be prosecuted under the same law. Weird, sketchy people contact me all the time. And they're like, hey, we have this information. We vet it, but what if it's stolen? That's not my fault. They're the ones who stole it. Our job is to get information out there, as much information to the public as possible, regardless of the consequences. The consequences are other people's faults. It's not ours to grapple with.
So what Kirby said there is also interesting because, he says, okay, we assess this was damaging to U.S. national security, which I think is bullshit because if it had been, we would know about it. We would know the instance. We would know what happened. They would have screamed it from the rooftops. We would all be able to recite in, chapter and verse exactly what the damage to U.S. national security is. But also, that's not really the question here, is it? So when he says, go back and look at what they said in 2012, well, guess what the position of the Obama administration was in 2012? It was, we cannot charge Julian Assange without criminalizing journalism. That was the Obama-Biden position. the Trump Justice Department ends up charging Assange initially with this bullshit hacking charge. Then they expand it to the espionage, which is the most dangerous part of this whole thing, which is why the New York Times and these other European outlets belatedly are making this call. But I give them credit for doing it because other news outlets have been claim, oh, democracy dies in darkness, but they have nothing to say about this. Okay, but the real question is this Espionage Act? Is this a legitimate charge? And back in the Obama-Biden administration, they said no. Trump administration charges him with this. So all we are asking, all the New York Times is asking, is 4 other European outlets, all they are asking is to go back to the Obama-Biden position of 2012. Do I have confidence they will do it? No, I do not. But it is heartening, at least to see a news outlet standing up partially to their own rhetoric about press freedom and protecting their own right to publish and do acts of journalism.
Well, these papers in particular, because they're all the ones who worked with WikiLeaks back in 2011. So on many of the diplomatic cables, leaks, etc. So look, we all know it killed the Times and many of these others do this. They hate Julian Assange because of the Hillary Clinton leaks.
I don't care how they feel about
as it has always been the point. That doesn't matter.
They take pains, which I think is important in the piece that they published too, to say this has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton and WikiLeaks. This is about the disclosure of the Bush administration's war crimes, effectively. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.